What's going on, Cheeseheads? It's your boy, J-Man. Today we got some stuff to go over. We got to go over the 2022 Packers draft and the recent news of Jaire Alexander signing his extension, making him the highest paid defensive back in the NFL. Let's jump right into it. I got some notes about all the Packers draft picks, and then we'll talk about that Jaire Alexander extension. So with the Packers' first pick, they had their first pick in round one. Pick number 22, they select inside linebacker Quay Walker out of the University of Georgia. And he is most likely going to be paired next to Devonte Campbell in that interior linebacker group. And then, of course, we have Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith on the outside as well. I really like this pick. I think he might take a little bit of time to develop, but I think he's going to be a great piece for this defense moving forward, and that linebacker core is going to look amazing. The next pick the Packers had, pick number 28, only 6 selections later. Also in the first round, they select defensive lineman Devonte Wyatt, also from the University of Georgia. And he is most likely there to be an interior force, and he's probably going to take pressure off of Kenny Clark. In the past few years, Kenny Clark has been always getting double teamed, and having another star defensive lineman in Devonte Wyatt, he should be able to take some pressure off of Kenny Clark, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the two of those guys will do in the interior defensive line. With those two picks in the first round, the Green Bay Packers become the first team in NFL history to have 3 consecutive first-round picks, all taken from the same school. Obviously, Quay Walker and Devonte Wyatt this year from the University of Georgia, and then if you remember, in last year's draft, the Green Bay Packers took cornerback Eric Stokes as well, and he's looking pretty good so far. So hopefully that these two guys pan out pretty well. Obviously, first round picks coming from the University of Georgia. Georgia did have an amazing defense this past year, and the Packers were able to get two guys from that defense, one at inside linebacker and one at the defensive line position. So looking forward to seeing what those guys will do to help bolster up this defense. In the second round, pick number 34, the Packers traded up. They traded with Minnesota. The Packers take wide receiver Christian Watson from North Dakota State University. My quick note on him is that he is a good combination of size and speed. He's tall and fast. He is 6'4", but he does run a 4.3640, which is pretty dang good. Christian Watson did play in a run-heavy offense. North Dakota State, they run the ball like 70+% of the time. So he did become a pretty good blocking wide receiver, which does fit the Green Bay Packers scheme. Green Bay does like wide receivers that can block. So immediately he should be able to help block on the outside should the Packers be run heavy at the beginning of the season, like I expect them to. But as a receiver, from what I saw on his film, a little bit that I did see, he looks like a good, he can get down the field and he's good at catching those contested balls. So I'm kind of excited to see what Christian Watson can do. Obviously, with the departure of Davante Adams, the Packers definitely needed to address the receiver position in this draft, and they traded up in the second round to get their receiver. Obviously, it would have been nice to get guys like Chris Olave or Jameson Williams, but unfortunately, those guys went pretty quick. I believe the first pick was Jameson Williams. He went pick number 8 to Detroit. I'm pretty sure, I'm not entirely sure, but Detroit selected a wide receiver pretty early, and so began the run on receivers in that 8 to 16 range in the draft. All of those kind of top level wide receivers went. So the Packers, they kind of waited. They bolstered up the defense in the first round, and then the second round they traded up to get their guy Christian Watson from North Dakota State University. The next pick, in round number 3, pick number 92 overall, the Packers take offensive lineman Sean Ryan from UCLA, and he will most likely be developed as a guard. He will probably start as a backup, but we could see him get kind of shoehorned into a starting role in this offense as a guard. Not much else really known about him. I think he's pretty versatile. He'll probably be a guard. If needed, he might move to a tackle position, but probably stays in that guard position. And then Josh Myers kind of got that center position locked down. So that's all I have for him at the moment. And then moving forward to the next pick in round 4, pick number 132 overall, the Packers take another wide receiver, Romeo Dobbs from Nevada, and he is most likely going to be looked at as a possible MVS replacement. Probably going to be more of a special teams guy this year, but as a receiver, someone that can just kind of run down the field and play that kind of Tyreek Hill MVS role where you just get down the field, try to beat your man, and kind of be that long ball target. And then the next pick in round 4, only 8 picks later, pick number 140 overall, the Packers take another offensive lineman, Zac Tom from Wake Forest. And he fell quite a bit. He is regarded as one of the more athletic offensive linemen in this draft, and he's pretty versatile as well. The Packers believe that he can play any of the 5 positions. I believe he was a guard. Don't quote me on that, though. But he should be a pretty versatile option for this Packers offensive line should he be needed this season. I don't think he'll be a starter right away, but he will most likely be developed as a solid backup. And yeah, Packers bolster the offensive line. Now moving on to the next pick in round 5, pick number 179 overall, the Packers select an outside linebacker slash edge rusher, Kingsley, and I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, Enagbari from South Carolina. I probably pronounced that wrong, so sorry to Kingsley, but he's an outside linebacker from South Carolina, and he should be a quality backup to Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith. He's going to serve in kind of that backup edge role. He's probably most likely going to be more of a developmental piece. Might be able to help out on special teams this year, and look probably more of a draft and develop like Rashawn Gary was 3 years ago. And now Rashawn Gary is obviously going to be the starter with the departure of Zadarius Smith. So we got Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith at the outside, and then you'll have Kingsley as kind of the backup should either one of those guys become injured. Moving on to the next pick, the Packers did not have any selections in round 6. And in round 7, with pick number 228 overall, the Green Bay Packers take another inside linebacker, Tariq Carpenter from the Georgia Institute of Technology. And he is most likely going to replace Oren Burks as a backup linebacker and a special teams guy. Oren Burks, I believe, left free agency for San Francisco. So the Packers most likely selected Tariq as a fill-in for Oren. Oren Burks served as a backup interior linebacker, and I think he was a special teams guy, kind of a punt team guy, I'm pretty sure. So one of those day 3 picks. You don't really expect a whole lot from these guys, but maybe he develops and becomes a pretty good inside linebacker. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, we'll move on from there. With the next Packers pick in the 7th round, pick number 234 overall, they select another defensive tackle, Jonathan Ford from the University of Miami, and he is most likely going to end up on the practice squad. He might end up making the roster as kind of a backup for Kenny Clark should Kenny Clark ever get injured. It's a day 3 pick, so could be drafted as a practice squad guy. Maybe he does crack the roster. But yeah, it's kind of those 50-50. If he makes it, good for him. If not, don't be surprised. He was a day 3 pick. And then the next pick, also in round 7, the Packers take another offensive tackle or another offensive lineman. This one a tackle of Rasheed Walker from Penn State. He is most likely a draft and develop guy playing behind David Bakhtiari at left tackle and Elton Jenkins at right tackle. Again, maybe he makes a practice squad. Maybe he makes a roster as a backup tackle. But again, you don't really expect either one of those guys to for sure make the roster. If they do, great. Otherwise, look to keep them on the practice squad should any of the starting tackles get injured. And then with the Packers' final pick, round 7, pick number 257 overall, the Packers select their 3rd wide receiver, and I'm going to do my best to pronounce this right, Samori Toray. I think that's close. Forgive me if that's not accurate. But wide receiver Samori Toray out of the University of Nebraska. and he is most likely going to be a special teams guy for now, but he could be a pleasant surprise at wide receiver. From what I've heard, he since the draft and kind of in that draft process, he definitely improved his stock, and um, I don't know. I don't have too much on him right now at the moment, uh, but I've heard good things about him since the draft that he uh, could be a good maybe number three guy eventually down the road, um, and I hope for the best for him. But that was it for the Packers picks, and then the final piece of news that we had is by the time this video comes out, it'll be 2 days prior. I saw the news that Jaire Alexander has signed a 4-year, $84 million extension to stay with the Green Bay Packers through, I believe, 2026. He'll most likely play on his, I think he'll be playing on his 5th year option. Otherwise, no. Nope, he will not be playing on his 5th year option. This goes right into his extension. So he's under contract with the Packers through 2026 at an average of $21 million a year. His base salary this upcoming year, I think, is like $1.5 million, and the Packers are throwing a bunch of bonuses at him. And with this extension, excuse me, the Packers save, I believe it was roughly $6 million in cap space. So I believe their current cap space is about 17 million, which is plenty of cap space to possibly go out and try to sign a veteran receiver. Cough, cough, maybe an Odell Beckham Jr. I know that Jarvis Landry signed with New Orleans, and personally, he was the guy that I would have liked to see the Packers go out and get, but he went down to New Orleans. So I guess the next guy that me personally I would like to see the Packers sign, if they're going to go add a veteran wide receiver, would be Odell Beckham Jr. He did tear his ACL in the Super Bowl though, so Odell Beckham Jr. is most likely not going to be available until November at best, I think, but he could definitely help for a playoff push. So we'll see what the Packers do about that, should they want to sign a veteran receiver. But yeah, $17 million in cap space. That should be enough room to add maybe one or two players throughout the season, whether they do it in training camp and they sign one of those veteran receivers, or if they wait till the middle of the season and pick up a guy like they did last year with Rasul Douglas. Maybe they add a receiver in the beginning of October. That has yet to be seen. It is currently only May. So we will see how everything pans out from there. As an overall, I think Packers had a really good draft, especially those first three picks, solidifying this defense and then getting a receiver in the draft as well. I think you're definitely going to see a philosophy change in Green Bay. This team, in my personal opinion, is going to be a more defensive-minded team and just look to give Rodgers as many shots as possible, because he does not have Devonte Adams anymore, unfortunately. But there's still talent on this team. It's probably going to be a run-first offense for a while until Rodgers develops chemistry with those kind of lower-tier wide receivers. And I don't know. There's still about 4 months left to the season, so uh, plenty of stuff to just kind of wait and see how everything turns out. That is all I have for now, and until then, take it easy.